I'm Abigail, 29, standing in my parents' Ohio kitchen, the knife cold in my hand as I chop onions for Thanksgiving. The air's thick with turkey sage and a bitter undercurrent betrayal sharp as the blade's edge. My hands tremble as Dad's voice booms from the living room. You're not family if you question me. I've poured $32,000 into their house, their bills, their survival, yet I'm the outsider unseen. My heart pounds, sensing this holiday will break us apart. The onions sting my eyes, blurring the faded photo of me on the fridge. A girl Dad once called his star, now just a shadow. Have you ever felt your family turn against you like you're invisible? Share where you're watching from below. Subscribe to hear how I fought back. The kitchen clock ticks past 9, its hands worn from years of marking time in this Ohio home. I'm Abigail, 29. Elbow deep in cold soapy water, scrubbing gravy from plates, as Thanksgiving morning unfolds like a play I don't belong in. The sink's chipped porcelain bites my knuckles, a small pain grounding me. In the living room, my brother Ethan strums a guitar he barely touches, his laughter sharp, carefree, slicing through the walls. Dad claps his back, his voice warm, heavy with pride. Nice job, son, he says, a tone I haven't heard for myself since I was a kid when he'd braid my hair and call me his helper. I've paid $32,000 to keep this house from crumbling. Mom's hospital bills, Ethan's car, Dad's surgeries, but it's Ethan's dreams Dad cherishes. I dry my hands on a threadbare towel, its edges frayed like my patience, and step into the dining room. Mom's old china gleams on the table, reserved for days meant to matter. I try to join the chatter, my voice steady, despite the knot in my chest. Just got a design award at work, I say, picturing the sleek certificate on my desk, hoping for a spark of recognition. Dad glances up, his eyes distracted. That's nice, honey, he mutters, then turns to Ethan. Tell me about that gig you're chasing, son. Ethan grins, spinning a story about a downtown bar, his voice slick with confidence I know is hollow. He's never played a paid show, never will. But Dad drinks it in, nodding like it's gospel. My throat tightens, the room shrinking, the air too warm. Mom's at the stove stirring cranberry sauce, the spoon scraping the pot rhythmically. Her apron stained a map of years spent feeding us. I catch her eye, desperate for a tether, a sign she sees me. She looks away, humming a tune I don't recognize. Her silence, a quiet rejection that cuts deeper than words. I turn to the fridge for butter, my fingers brushing a crumpled receipt in my coat pocket, $1,200 for Ethan's car payment, another debt I shouldn't have paid. I crush it in my fist, my chest heavy, the weight of their dismissal pressing down. Why am I invisible? I've kept this family afloat, but Dad's pride, Mom's silence, they're all for Ethan. I slip outside to the porch, the November air sharp biting my cheeks. The street still, lawns dusted with frost, the neighborhood holding its breath. My sister Natalie's car pulls up, tires crunching softly. She steps out, 27, her nurse's scrub swapped for a wool sweater, her face etched with exhaustion, but soft with concern. You okay, Abby? She asks, her hug brief but warm. I shrug, words caught in my throat, the chill seeping into my bones. Inside, Ethan's voice carries through the window, loud, boastful. Natalie leans close, her breath visible in the cold. He's been lying, Abby, she whispers. Those gigs, they're fake. He's been taking Mom's cash, too. Her words hit like a slap, my stomach twisting, a mix of shock and confirmation. I stare at the porch swing, its paint chipped, where we used to laugh as kids planning our futures. How long has this been going on? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Natalie's eyes drop guilty. A while, she says. I want to scream, to shake her, but I swallow it, my hands trembling in my pockets. The truth, a heavy stone I'm not ready to lift. Back inside, the house hums with the clatter of pots and the low drone of the TV, a football game nobody's watching. I'm Abigail, 29, and Natalie's confession about Ethan's lies burns in my chest, a smoldering coal I can't ignore. I grab a cutting board, slicing carrots with sharp, uneven chops, each one echoing my frustration. The kitchen's too small, the walls pressing in the air thick with grease and unspoken truths. Dad's still in the living room, laughing with Ethan about some music festival he'll never play. Their voices a wall I can't breach. I want to storm and demand answers, but my feet stay planted, rooted by years of holding back. Natalie's beside me, peeling potatoes. Her knife slow, deliberate. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I ask, my voice low, the hurt seeping through. She sighs, glancing at Mom, who's folding napkins with mechanical precision. "I didn't want to make waves," she says. "You know how Dad gets." Her excuse feels flimsy, a betrayal dressed as caution, and I grip the knife tighter, the blade nicking my finger. A thin bead of blood blooms and I rinse it under cold water, the sting sharp, pulling me back to myself. The faucet drips, a steady rhythm matching my pulse. I catch my reflection in the dark window, my face drawn older than 29, the weight of years spent carrying this family etched in my eyes. $32,000 mortgage payments, medical bills, Ethan's endless debts, and I'm still the one bleeding in the kitchen unseen. I dry my hands and step into the dining room, where Dad's showing Ethan a tattered guitar magazine, its pages yellowed. I clear my throat, trying again, my voice steadier than I feel. "Dad, I say I paid off your hospital bill last year. $12,800. Can we talk?" His eyes flick to me, then slide away, dismissive. "Money's not everything, Abby," he says, his tone sharp, final. "Ethan needs support for his future." "You're fine." The words land like a fist, knocking the air from my lungs. I stand frozen, the room tilting, the oak table's grain blurring under my gaze. Mom walks in with a bowl of green beans, her steps careful, and I turn to her, desperate for an ally. "Mom, you know what I've done for us, right?" I ask, my voice cracking. She pauses, her lips tight, then gives a single nod. Barely there before turning away. "It's not enough. Not nearly enough." Ethan smirks, leaning back in his chair, his ease a silent taunt. I realize he's reveling in this, my erasure, and it twists something deep inside me. I slip into the hallway, the air cooler, but no less heavy and lean against the wall, my breath shallow. A faded family photo catches my eye. The four of us at a county fair, my ponytail swinging as Dad carried me on his shoulders, his smile wide. That man's gone, replaced by someone who sees me as a checkbook, nothing more. My phone buzzes, a work email about a new project, a flicker of the life I've built outside these walls. But it can't dull the ache, the sharp sting of being dismissed. Natalie's truth about Ethan, Dad's coldness, Mom's silence. It's a storm I can't outrun, and I'm unraveling the day barely half over with no end in sight. I'm Abigail, 29, and the hallway's dim light feels like it's closing in, swallowing me whole. My pulse hammers as I step back into the dining room, where the clink of silverware and chatter of arriving relatives weave a chaotic hum. Thanksgiving afternoon is alive, but I'm a ghost in this house, unseen, unmoored. The table's crowded with aunts, uncles, cousins, all buzzing about Ethan's latest lie, a record deal that exists only in his head. I'm carrying a tray of rolls, my hands unsteady, the warm bread slipping against the metal. Mom pulls me aside by the stove, her whisper sharp, unexpected. "Abby, you're acting jealous of Ethan's shine," she says, her eyes darting away, refusing to meet mine. "Jealous." The word stabs deep and twisting after I've poured $32,000 into keeping this family from collapse. She thinks I'm petty, envious of Ethan's hollow dreams. I set the tray down, the rolls tumbling, and force a smile, my jaw tight enough to ache. The room's too warm, the scent of roasted turkey turning sour in my nose, clinging to my sweater. I weave through the crowd, pouring iced tea for cousins who barely glance my way, their voices a blur of praise for Ethan. "He's going places," Uncle Harold says, his hand heavy on Ethan's shoulder. I want to scream that he's going nowhere, that I've funded his illusions, but my tongue feels leaden, stuck. Aunt Marjorie's voice slithers from the corner, loud enough to wound. "Abigail's just the bank," she says to Aunt Gail, her tone dripping with disdain. My face burns, and I nearly drop the pitcher, the glass slick and cold against my palms, grounding me for a moment. I retreat to the kitchen, where Mom's old wedding platter sits on the counter, its chipped edge a quiet testament to faded promises. I trace it with my finger, my chest tight, a tangle of rage and grief. How did we end here? I've paid for Dad's heart surgery, Mom's prescriptions, Ethan's car yet. I'm nothing but a wallet stripped of worth. Lucas, my cousin. 30, a mechanic with grease-stained knuckles, steps in, his brow creased. You okay, Abby? He asks, leaning against the fridge, his work boots scuffing the linoleum. I hesitate, then spill it, my voice low but shaking. Did you know Dad borrowed $5,000 from me for Ethan's music lessons? I ask. Lucas's jaw tightens, his eyes darkening. He took the same from me, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. Never paid it back. Said it was for Ethan's career. The truth hits like a wave, crashing, my anger surging hot and unstoppable. Dad's been funneling money to Ethan's delusions, using us both, bleeding us dry. I grip the counter, my knuckles whitening as Lucas shakes his head. It's not right, he says, but what can we do? His resignation stokes my fury, a fire I can't contain. The dining room bursts with laughter, Ethan's voice soaring, spinning tales of a tour that's as real as smoke. I step to the doorway, watching him hold court, Dad beaming like he's struck gold. Mom's arranging pies, her face blank, as if she didn't just accuse me of jealousy. The injustice chokes me, my heart pounding so loud it drowns out the room. I'm not just hurt, I'm livid, and this day's spiraling towards something I can't yet see. I'm Abigail, 29, standing in the doorway. The dining room's laughter scraping my nerves raw. The air's heavy with the scent of pie and pretense, a suffocating mix. Ethan's voice cuts through, weaving a lie about a producer desperate to sign him his confidence a blade. Dad nods, his eyes alight with a pride I haven't seen since I was small, when he'd push me on the swings, calling me his partner. I clutch a stack of napkins, my fingers digging into the soft cloth, as Mom brushes past to refill the water pitcher. I try to catch her gaze, needing a lifeline, a sign she sees me. She looks through me, her lips pursed, and hurries back to the table, her steps quick, dismissive. I follow, my boots heavy on the hardwood, and start clearing plates, the clatter a weak shield against my racing thoughts. Aunt Marjorie's whispers reach me now, to Cousin Rachel, her words sharp. Abigail's always been so serious. No wonder she's bitter. Bitter I've poured my savings into this family, $32,000, and they think I'm the problem. My throat tightens. But I keep moving, stacking dishes, my face a practiced mask. Ethan leans back, grinning wide, and says, Dad, you should hear the crowd at my last show. I know it's a lie. No show, no crowd. Just my money propping up his charade. But Dad laughs, eating it up. I slip back to the kitchen, my hands trembling as I scrape leftovers into a bowl, the scraps piling up like my resentment. The sink's overflowing again, a cruel mirror of my role here, always cleaning up. Natalie's there folding towels, her eyes red, her fingers fidgeting. I told you about Ethan, she says, her voice barely a whisper. But don't make a scene, Abby. It'll break Mom. Break Mom. What about me? I want to snap, but my voice breaks instead. Why's it always me who has to hold it together? I ask, the words raw. Natalie shrugs, her silence a wall, and I feel our sisterhood fraying thread by thread. The back door creaks, and Lucas steps in his work boots, leaving faint dirt marks. A cigarette's tucked behind his ear, his face grim. I just heard Uncle Harold say you're ungrateful, he says, his voice low. Said you owe the family for raising you. Owe them. The accusation sparks something fierce, a rage I can barely leash. I've paid for Dad's surgery, Mom's meds, Ethan's lies, and I owe them. I slam a plate into the dishwasher, the clank echoing, and Lucas flinches. You don't deserve this, he says, but his pity deepens the wound, a reminder I'm alone in this fight. I step outside to the backyard, the cold stinging my cheeks, the grass brittle underfoot. The old tire swing sways faintly, a ghost of summers when Dad called me his partner, his laugh filling the air. Now I'm nothing, not to him, not to Mom, not even to Natalie. The dining room windows glow, framing the family I've bankrolled, laughing without me. Ethan's voice rises, another boast, and Dad's chuckle follows a sound that once meant home. My chest aches. A hollow pain beyond anger, a betrayal so deep it's suffocating. I'm alone, surrounded by them, and the worst is coming. I'm Abigail, 29, and the dining room's a blur of candlelight and voices, a stage where I don't belong. It's 7 o'clock Thanksgiving dinner in chaos. Plates heaped with mashed potatoes and unspoken grudges. I'm clearing wine glasses. My hands numb, the stems slippery, when Dad stands his chair scraping the floor like a warning. He raises his glass, his voice booming over the chatter. To Ethan, he says, for chasing dreams and showing us what loyalty means. Family's about heart, not money. The words hit like a slap, my pulse roaring, drowning out the room. Loyalty. I've paid $32,000 to keep this family breathing, and he's toasting Ethan's lies. I set the glasses down, my fingers trembling, the clink too loud in the sudden hush. I step forward, my voice cutting through, sharper than I meant. Dad, I say I paid $12,800 for your heart surgery. I paid the mortgage, Ethan's car, everything. Doesn't that count? The room freezes, forks, hovering eyes darting. Dad's face hardens, his jaw tight. Get out, Abby, he shouts, slamming his glass down, wine sloshing. Paying bills doesn't make you family. The words echo a gut punch, stealing my breath. Relatives gasp, some whispering, others staring wide-eyed. Ethan smirks, leaning back, his silence a louder betrayal than Dad's rage. Mom's at the table's end, twisting a napkin, her face pale as milk. Abby, she whispers, you're tearing us apart. Tearing us apart. I've held us together and she's blaming me. My vision blurs, tears burning, but I blink them back, my chest heaving like it's cracking open. Natalie's beside her, eyes wide, mouthing, stop please. But I can't not now, the truth's out raw and jagged. Lucas across the table stands, his voice steady but sharp. Raymond, he says to Dad, you borrowed $5,000 from me for Ethan's lessons. Where's my money? The room explodes, cousins shouting, Aunt Marjorie yelling about fairness, her voice shrill. A glass of red wine tips over the stain, seeping into the white tablecloth, spreading like a wound. I catch my reflection in it, my face warped to strangers. This can't be happening, I think, but it is undeniable. My family's unraveling, and I'm the one they're casting out. Dad's still standing, his finger jabbing at me, his voice a growl. You're done here, Abigail. I grab my coat from the chair, my hands shaking, ready to flee, but a spark ignites inside, a defiance I didn't know I had. I'm not done, not yet. I think my heart racing with something new. I'm Abigail, 29, frozen in the dining room, my coat dangling from my hand as Dad's words burn in my skull. The air's thick, heavy with burnt rolls and broken trust, the candles flickering like they're mocking me. Relatives shout their voices, a chaotic tangle, but Ethan's laugh cuts through, sharp, cruel. Look at her, he says, pointing at me, always playing the martyr. You think you're better than us, Abby. My stomach lurches, his mockery ripping open years of quiet sacrifices. $32,000 I'll never get back. I want to scream, but my throat's locked, the room spinning like a bad dream. Mom stands her chair, wobbling, her voice cracking. Abigail, just apologize. She pleads, her eyes wet, glistening in the dim light. Apologize for keeping them afloat. I stare at her. The woman who taught me to tie my shoes now begging me to shrink. Natalie's crying, her hands covering her face, useless in this storm. Aunt Gail's voice slices in, cold and pointed. You've always been selfish, Abigail, hogging the spotlight with your money. Selfish. The word twists like a knife, my breath shallow, barely reaching my lungs. Lucas tries to speak, his voice rising. She's not the problem, he says, but Dad cuts him off, his fist slamming the table plates, rattling like bones. Enough, he roars. This is my house, and I say she's out. I flinch, my heart, a bruised thing pounding against my ribs. I scan the faces, cousins, uncles, people I've known forever, and see judgment, pity, or worse, blank indifference. Ethan leans forward, his smirk widening, venomous. Let her go, Dad, he says. She's not one of us. The words land like a final blow, stripping me to nothing. I stumble toward the front door, my boots loud on the hardwood, the sound echoing in my ears. I pause at the entryway table, where a small clay turkey I made in 3rd grade sits lopsided, painted a garish red. Dad used to call it his favorite, showing it to guests with a grin. Now it's dust-covered, forgotten like me. My chest caves the weight of being disowned, crushing me a pain so raw I can't breathe. I grip the doorknob cold and unyielding and realize this is it, my family, my blood choosing him over me, every single one. I'm Abigail, 29, and the cold November air slaps my face as I stumble out the front door, my coat still clutched in one hand. The porch light flickers, casting jagged shadows on the cracked steps, and I collapse onto the top one, my breath ragged, uneven. The house behind me buzzes with muffled arguments, a distant hum like a radio left on in another room. Ethan's smirk. Dad's final words. They carve holes in me, each one deeper than the last. "I'm done here," he said, and they all agreed, their silence as damning as his shout. But something shifts, a quiet fire sparking in my chest, small but fierce. I'm not the one who's done. I fumble for my keys. My fingers stiff in the chill and slide into my car across the street. The leather seat's cold, grounding me as I grip the steering wheel, my knuckles pale. My phone's in the cup holder screen dark and I don't touch it. No one's coming after me. Not Mom, not Natalie, not even a whisper of regret. I start the engine, its hum steadying my pulse, and drive the 20 minutes to my apartment, the city lights blurring past like streaks of paint. My mind races, replaying every dollar I've spent, 32,000 mortgage, medical bills, Ethan's car. I see my bank statements, the numbers draining my dreams for theirs. No more. I think the words solidifying. Inside my apartment, the quiet wraps around me, a relief after the noise. My small living room's lit by a single lamp, its glow soft on the walls. I drop my coat on the couch, its weight falling like a shed skin, and spot my old sketchbook on the coffee table, its pages curling, neglected. I flip it open, my fingers, tracing a half-finished logo, bold lines from a time before I became their bank. This is me, I think, not their wallet. I grab my laptop, hands steadier now, and log into my bank account. The screen glows, numbers stark, 15,000 for the mortgage, 4,200 for Ethan's car, all on autopay, draining me month after month. I dial the bank's after hours line, my voice calm, almost foreign to my ears. I need to stop all payments to my parents' accounts, I say, listing the mortgage, the car, every tie. The rep's voice is cautious. "Are you sure, ma'am?" she asks. I glance at the sketchbook, its lines a reminder of the life I've buried. "I'm sure," I say, and it's like breathing fresh air, sharp and clean. The call ends, and I lean back, my chest lighter, though my stomach twists with a flicker of guilt. This is right, I tell myself, but it's not easy. Not yet. My phone buzzes, Lucas's name flashing. I answer, bracing myself. "Abby," he says, his voice tight, urgent, "you can't cut them off like this. It'll destroy them. Destroy them, they destroyed me." I pace the hardwood, my boots creaking, the sound anchoring me. "Lucas, I say I've given everything. They don't get to spit in my face and keep my money." He sighs, pleading for compromise, his voice heavy with worry. But I'm past bargaining, past bending. I hang up my resolve, hardening a strength rising like a tide, pulling me forward, unyielding. I'm Abigail, 29, pacing my apartment, the bank call still echoing in my ears. The lamp's glow catches a stack of unopened mail on my kitchen counter, bills I've ignored while paying theirs. My phone's gone quiet. Lucas's plea fading, but guilt tugs at me, a whisper that I'm abandoning them. I shove it down, grabbing a glass of water, the cold shocking my throat, grounding me. I've been their safety net for years, $32,000, and they called me selfish, erased me. No more. Not another cent. I sit at my desk, the sketchbook open, its pages a map of who I was before their needs consumed me. I pull up my credit card account, my heart skipping as I scan the charges. $2,000 in unauthorized purchases, music equipment, bar tabs, all linked to Ethan's name. He's been using my card, my trust, like it's his to burn. My fingers hover, then move swift and certain, canceling the card. A confirmation email pings, and I exhale, a weight lifting sharp and sudden. He's locked out, and it's like reclaiming a piece of my soul. I lean back, my chair creaking under me, and spot a photo tucked in the sketchbook's back pocket, me at 20, grinning at an art fair, my first sale, eyes bright with possibility. I was fearless then before their demands buried that girl. She's still here, I think, and I grab my phone, texting Natalie, my words blunt, final. I'm done paying for Ethan's lies. Don't ask me to fix this. I hit send, my pulse steady, no trace of regret. She doesn't reply, and I don't expect her to. This isn't her fight anymore. It's mine. The clock reads 11. Thanksgiving night slipping away, but I'm awake, a new energy pulsing through me. I open my laptop again, pulling up a freelance site I haven't touched in months. Its interface familiar but distant. My portfolio's stale, but my fingers itch to create, to build something for me, not them. I start drafting a new profile, each word deliberate, a step away from their chaos. I'm a designer. I write, my voice emerging on the screen, not a bank, not a martyr. The guilt lingers, a faint shadow, but it's no match for the clarity settling in, strong and sure. I walk to my window, the city hushed below streetlights, casting soft pools on the pavement, reflecting off wet asphalt. My reflection stares back, not the broken daughter from dinner, but someone new choosing herself. I pick up a pencil from the desk, its weight familiar, comforting, and twirl it slowly, the motion deliberate, grounding. I'm not just cutting them off, I'm starting over, building a life that's mine. The room's silent, but it's not empty. It's alive with possibility, and I stand still, holding that truth, ready for whatever comes next. I'm Abigail, 29, and the morning after Thanksgiving feels like waking in a stranger's skin. My apartment's quiet. The coffee maker's hum, a soft pulse as dawn creeps through the blinds, painting the walls gold. I'm sipping from a chipped mug, the coffee bitter, when my phone lights up, a voicemail from Dad. His voice jagged, raw. Abigail, the bank called. Mortgage payment's gone. What did you do? I set the mug down, my hands steady, but my stomach knots, a mix of dread and resolve. I knew this was coming, but hearing his panic unfiltered lands like a stone in still water. I don't call back. I open my laptop, emails loading, one from the bank confirming the stopped payments, $15,000 for the mortgage, $4,200 for Ethan's car, all frozen. Another email from the repo company says Ethan's car was towed at 6 a.m. Its absence a mark of my choice. I picture it, his sleek sedan yanked from the driveway, and feel a flicker of satisfaction quickly swallowed by unease. My phone buzzes again, Mom's name flashing. I let it go to voicemail, her voice trembling through the speaker. Abby, please fix this. We're losing everything. Her desperation tugs. But I stay still, my fingers tracing the mug's rim, grounding me. By noon, I'm at my parents' house, pulled back by Dad's third call, this one laced with threats of legal action. The street's too calm, a police cruiser idling in their driveway lights off a quiet omen. I park my boots, crunching gravel, and see Ethan on the porch, his face pale, eyes wild with fury. You did this, he spits, pointing at the empty spot where his car stood. You're ruining us. I meet his gaze, my voice low, steady. You ruined yourself, Ethan. He lunges forward, his fists clenched, but a cop steps out, hand raised, calming him. Ma'am, the officer says to me, his tone neutral. Your father claims you stole family funds. Can we talk? Inside, the living room's a wreck. Coffee cups scattered, a blanket crumpled on the couch like someone slept there. Dad's in his recliner, face-red papers strewn on the side table. Bank statements, I assume their edges curling. You think you can pull this stunt, he says, not looking at me, his voice thick with anger. I gave you everything and you stab us in the back. Gave me everything. The claim almost makes me laugh, but my throat's too tight, the air heavy. Mom's in the corner wiping her eyes, her sweater sleeves frayed, unraveling like us. Abigail, she says, just pay the bank. We'll work it out. Her voice breaks, and I almost waver, but I stand still, their expectations a weight I refuse to carry. Natalie's perched on the armrest, her face drawn, her eyes flicking to me, then away. I told you, she whispers so soft I barely hear, I knew about Ethan's scams. The confession hangs heavy, confirming she let me bear this alone. The cop clears his throat, asking for proof of payments. But I'm barely listening, my gaze drifting to a framed picture on the wall, us at a picnic years ago, all smiles. The room feels like a courtroom, my family the jury, and I'm already convicted, my heart sinking heavy as stone with no way out in sight. I'm Abigail, 29, standing in my parents' living room, the air stale with accusation, the walls closing in. The cop's pen scratches a relentless sound, but my eyes are on Mom, her hands knotted in her lap, refusing to meet mine. Dad's voice rises, bitter, cutting. "You think you're smart, Abigail, cutting us off? You'll regret this." I don't answer, my gaze drifting to the mantel, where a clock ticks too loud, each second a reminder of time we've lost. Ethan's pacing, muttering about his car. His dreams, as if I owe him those too, his sneakers squeaking on the hardwood. The front door swings open and Lucas steps in, his jacket damp from a sudden drizzle, his face set. He nods at me, then turns to Dad. "You owe me 5,000, Raymond," he says, his voice calm but unyielding. "Half the family's talking about your debts now." Dad's face pales, his mouth opening, no words escaping. The room stills, the cop glancing between us, sensing the shift. "Aunt Marjorie and Uncle Harold are outside," Lucas adds, "and they're not on your side anymore." I catch a flicker of fear in Dad's eyes, a crack in his control, and it's strangely hollow, not satisfying. Mom stands, her voice small, trembling. "Abigail, please just talk to the bank. For me." Her plea cuts sharp and familiar, but I shake my head, slow, deliberate. "You chose Ethan?" I say, my words quiet but piercing. "You all did." Natalie flinches, her fingers twisting her sleeve, and I see it, the guilt she's buried now exposed. The cop clears his throat again, saying he'll need bank records, but it's just noise. My family's unraveling, their anger turning inward, and I'm the mirror they can't face, reflecting their choices. I step outside, the drizzle, cool on my skin, dampening my hair, Mrs. Helen, the neighbor, stands by her fence holding a thermos of coffee, her gray hair tucked under a scarf. "Saw the police," she says, her voice warm, steady, handing me the thermos. "I cut my sister off years ago. Hard, but worth it." Her words land like a soft hand on my shoulder, unexpected grounding. I nod, clutching the warm metal, and glance back at the house, its windows glowing, but it's not home anymore, hasn't been for a while. I walk to my car, the gravel crunching under my boots, the thermos heavy in my hands. The fight's drained out of me, replaced by a dull ache, a quiet loss settling in my bones. They're falling apart, and I pulled the thread, but it's not victory, it's just weight. I slide into the driver's seat, the engines hum, a faint comfort, and stare at the house, its silhouette sharp against the gray sky. I've cut the ties, but the cost is heavy, and I'm not sure what's left of me. I'm Abigail, 29, and it's a week since I walked away from my parents' house, the chaos of that Thanksgiving night. Now a muted echo like a storm that's passed. My apartment feels different this morning. The sunlight slanting through the window, warming the hardwood, catching specks of dust in the air. I'm curled on the couch with a notebook, not my sketchbook, but a plain one. Scribbling thoughts. Fragments of feelings I've held too long. The pen moves slow, each word deliberate, a step towards something quieter, softer. I've stopped checking my phone for their calls, and the silence isn't heavy anymore. It's mine, a space I'm learning to fill. I sip tea, the mug's steam curling upward, its warmth seeping into my palms. I think about the girl I was always racing to fix their messes, patching holes in their lives with my own. That Abigail's gone, or at least resting tucked away like an old coat. I've started sketching again, small projects, a logo for a local bakery, its curves simple but bold. The client's email came yesterday praising my draft, and I smiled, a real smile, the kind that starts in your chest. It's not much, a tiny step, but it's mine, a piece of me I'm pulling back from the wreckage. My doorbell buzzes, soft but startling, cutting through the quiet. It's Natalie standing in the hallway, her coat dusted with snowflakes, her eyes tired but clear, like she's finally seeing something new. I let her in and we sit at my kitchen table, its wood scratched from years of use, a map of my own small history. "I'm sorry, Abby," she says, her voice low, raw. "I should have spoken up about Ethan. I was scared." I nod, stirring my tea, the spoon clinking softly against the mug. I know I say and I mean it, her fear as real as my hurt. I'm not ready to hug it out, not yet, but the anger's gone, replaced by a steady calm I'm learning to trust. She talks, her words halting, about Mom's struggling dad's silence. The family splintered like cracked glass. I listen, my hands still feeling a pang, but it's distant like a bruise fading under the skin. I don't ask about Ethan, and she doesn't bring him up, a silent agreement. Instead, I tell her about my sketches, the bakery job. My voice quiet but firm, like I'm claiming it. Her eyes soften, a flicker of pride, and for a moment we're sisters again, not soldiers in a war we didn't start. I walk her to the door and she pauses, hugging me briefly, her coat damp against my cheek. "Keep drawing," she says, and I nod, closing the door gently, the latch clicking soft. Alone again, I stand by the window, watching snow dust the street below, the flakes catching in the streetlights. My notebook's open, a single line underlined, "I'm enough." It's not a triumph, not yet, but it's a truth. I'm starting to hold a small light in the quiet. I'm not whole, but I'm here, and that's enough for now. I'm Abigail, 29, and the snow's picking up outside, blanketing the city in a hush, softening its edges. I'm alone again. Natalie's visit, a faint echo, but I'm not restless. Not anymore. I walk to my desk where a new sketch waits, half-finished lines for a coffee shop's menu board, bold and clean. My pencil moves steady, each stroke a choice, a claim on something mine. The world feels smaller today, not confining but manageable, like I'm holding the reins for the first time in years. I set the pencil down and grab my coat, the wool rough against my fingers, needing air to clear my head. The park's a short walk, its paths dusted white, the air sharp, stinging my lungs. I find a bench by the pond where ducks paddle lazily, one trailing behind its wing bent, but still moving, determined. I watch it, my breath fogging, and think of how it keeps going, no fuss, just instinct. I'm not so different. I realize, scarred, but still here, pushing forward. Lucas texts, saying he's leaving town, starting fresh out west. His words brief but warm. "Your call woke us up," he writes, and I smile. Tucking my phone away, feeling a warmth, not pride, but connection, like we're both chasing our own quiet. I scatter breadcrumbs from my pocket, the ducks waddling closer, their quacks soft in the cold. I sit back, my hands in my lap, the park empty, the snow muffling every sound. My mind drifts to Mom's laugh years ago when we'd bake cookies, flour dusting her nose, her eyes bright. I don't hate her or Dad or even Ethan. They're just people, flawed, tangled in their own stories. I've carried their weight too long, but I'm setting it down piece by piece, learning I don't need their approval to be whole. My fingers brush the bench's cold wood, its grain rough under my skin, grounding me. I feel lighter, not empty, but unburdened, like shedding a coat that never fit. The sun dips low, painting the sky a soft pink, and I stand brushing snow from my coat, the flakes falling like tiny promises. I walk home, my steps slow, deliberate, the park fading behind me. My apartment's waiting, a small space, but mine filled with my drawings, my choices. I pause at the door, my key in hand, the metal cold, and glance at the sky. The first stars faint but clear. I'm not fixed, not yet, but I'm on my way, and that's enough. I'm Abigail, 29, and it's a Sunday morning in February, 3 months since that Thanksgiving tore my world apart. My apartment's alive with light. The walls now lined with framed sketches, my designs, each one a quiet victory, a mark of who I'm becoming. I'm at my kitchen counter grinding coffee beans, the rich scent filling the air, grounding me. The routine's new, carved out in these quiet months, a small ritual that feels like home, like me. I pour the grounds into a filter, the machine's slow drip, a steady rhythm matching my calmer pulse. I've heard fragments about my family since I walked away. Dad sold the house, moving with Ethan to a smaller place, a rental, I'm told. Mom's with Natalie now, and I got a text from Nat last week. Brief, saying she's in therapy, trying to untangle her own knots, her own guilt. I didn't reply, not out of anger, but because I'm building something else, a life that's mine, not theirs. My phone stays quiet most days, no longer a tether to their chaos. And I'm okay with that, the absence of space I'm learning to fill with my own voice. I've been freelancing more, landing a steady gig with a local cafe designing their menu signage, even a mural for their back wall. The owner, a woman named Clara, stopped by yesterday with a thank you note, her handwriting neat on thick cardstock. "Your work's got soul," she wrote, and I tucked the note into a drawer next to my pencils, a reminder I'm seen for who I am, not what I give. The money's tight, every dollar counted, but it's mine earned without strings, without expectation. I sit by the window with my coffee, the mug warm in my hands, its weight familiar. The street below hums softly. A kid rides a bike, wobbling but laughing, his joy cutting through the morning chill. I smile, the kind that starts deep, unforced. I've started running in the mornings, just a mile, my sneakers pounding the pavement, the rhythm steadying me. It's not about fitness. It's about moving forward, feeling my own strength, each step a choice to outrun the old me, the one who carried everyone else's weight, who forgot her own. I pull out a journal, a new one, its pages crisp, unmarred. I write about the cafe job, the kid on the bike, the way the coffee tastes today, bitter but rich. It's not grand, but it's real, and I'm learning that's enough. The hurt from my family hasn't vanished. It's still there, but it's softer, like a scar you touch, without wincing, a mark of where you've been, not where you're going. I sip my coffee, the steam curling, and let the morning settle around me, calm, full mine. I'm Abigail, 29, and the afternoon sun slants through my apartment, catching a small vase of daisies I bought yesterday. Their petals bright against the table, a splash of life I chose. I'm at my desk, sorting through a box of old letters, keepsakes I've avoided for years, their edges worn from time. One catches my eye, a note from Mrs. Helen, the neighbor who brought me coffee that awful Thanksgiving morning, her kindness a beacon in the storm. "You're stronger than you know." She wrote her script, wobbly but certain. I smile, tucking it into a frame beside my sketches, a quiet anchor in my new world. I visited Helen last week, sitting in her cluttered kitchen, the smell of fresh bread warming the air. Her stories of cutting ties with her own family wove into mine, her voice steady, not preaching, just sharing. She listened as I talked about my sketches, my runs, my slow rebuilding, her hands folded around a teacup, her eyes kind. That hour felt like a gift, a reminder that family isn't just blood, it's who sees you, who stays when the storm hits. I've started a blog, small, just posts about my designs, my mornings, my thoughts. Strangers comment, sharing their own breaks, their own rebuilds, and I read each one feeling less alone, connected by quiet courage. I think about forgiveness, not the kind that erases pain, but the kind that frees you to keep your own peace. I wrote Mom a letter last night, not to send, but to release myself, the words spilling out simple, honest. I wished her well, meant it, and folded it away, the paper soft in my hands. Dad and Ethan are shadows now, their choices, theirs to carry, not mine. I've learned family isn't owed, it's earned, built on respect, not obligation. My worth isn't in what I give, but in who I am, and that's a truth I hold close, a flame that won't flicker, steady in my chest. I stand stretching and glance at a new drawing on my wall, a simple line sketch of a bridge, not grand but sturdy, spanning a quiet river. It's me crossing over, not to somewhere perfect, but somewhere mine, built on my terms. I've stopped waiting for their apologies, their change, their validation. I'm enough, and that's the lesson, not just for me, but for anyone who's ever felt unseen, unvalued. You don't need their permission to shine, to be whole. What's a moment you found your own strength when you chose yourself over someone else's expectations? Drop it in the comments. Let's share our stories. Lift each other up. If this resonated, please subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means the world keeps these stories alive, keeps us connected. Thank you for listening, for being here with me. Here's to healing, to new beginnings, wherever you are.